There aren't many secrets that Edward Snowden doesn't know. Go down in history as one of America's most consequential whistleblowers, alongside Daniel Ellsberg and Bradley Manning. Former CIA official Edward Snowden is responsible for handing over material from one of the world's most secretive organizations, the NSA. In a 2013 world-shattering revelation, this man has exposed secrets that shake the very foundations of our perception. And now, the renowned NSA whistleblower and an American hero in the eyes of many has just revealed something deeply unsettling about UFOs. From classified encounters to shadowy alliances, the truth about extraterrestrial life has been hidden in plain sight. Snowden's latest revelation transcends the realm of extraterrestrial life, and it is a wake-up call that demands our attention. People have seen intriguing or confounding objects in the sky for as long as we've been looking up. Over the eons, for example, many different cultures have regarded meteors and comets as supernatural phenomena, or at least processed them through a supernatural lens. These dramatic skylights have been deemed manifestations of a deity's displeasure or interpreted as signs that something wonderful, terrible, or simply consequential is soon to happen. Evidence of this view can be found in the 11th century Bayeux Tapestry, which chronicles the events leading up to the Norman conquest of England in 1066 CE. The famous Halley's Comet zoomed through the inner solar system that same year, and the 70-meter-long tapestry depicts it blazing ominously above the head of England's King Harold II. But the UFO phenomenon as we know it today is much more recent, dating to the era of powered flight. This makes a lot of sense. There weren't nearly as many flying objects to be puzzled by in William the Conqueror's day. UFOs really took off during World War II, when Allied pilots in both the European and Pacific theaters reported seeing puzzling lights or objects in the sky. They called these curiosities Foo Fighters, a term better known today as the band fronted by former Nirvana drummer Dave Grohl. Then, in June 1947, American businessman and aviator Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 shiny, mysterious craft zipping through the skies near Washington's Mount Rainier. Some newspaper stories described these UFOs as flying discs or flying saucers, and the latter term soon wormed its way into the public consciousness. UFO reports surged in the wake of Arnold's sighting, some of them even winding up in the pages of the New York Times. One of the items the Times picked up was the discovery of some seemingly exotic wreckage on a ranch in Lincoln County, New Mexico, in 1947. In July of that year, a public information officer at the relatively nearby Roswell Army Airfield described the debris as a flying disc, briefly igniting a firestorm of confused interest. Army officials quickly retracted that statement, explaining that the material in question was the remains of a crashed weather balloon, and the Roswell incident faded into obscurity. The U.S. military, concerned that some of these UFOs might pose a threat to national security, soon began to investigate sightings systematically. The Air Force established Project Sign to this end in 1947, then followed that with the similarly short-lived Project Grudge in 1948. The more well-known Project Blue Book got started in 1952 and ran all the way to 1969, examining more than 12,600 UFO reports along the way. One of the sightings Project Blue Book investigated was that of Betty and Barney Hill, who claimed they were captured and examined by extraterrestrials in rural New Hampshire in September 1961. The couple's account started getting picked up by newspapers in 1965, becoming the first ever widely publicized alien abduction story. And of course, UFO sightings didn't end when Project Blue Book wrapped up. Instead, they've kept on rolling in over the decades. For instance, UN 1966, the Westall High School incident in Melbourne, Australia, witnessed by hundreds of students and staff, described a large, silvery, disc-shaped object hovering above the school grounds. The incident remains a compelling example of a mass sighting with multiple eyewitness testimonies. The Rendlesham Forest incident in 1980 often dubbed Britain's Roswell, involved sightings of strange lights and a triangular craft near a military base in Suffolk, England. U.S. Air Force personnel reported witnessing these events and even claimed to touch the mysterious object, leaving marks on the ground. Some of the most famous ones in the past half-century include that of Travis Walton, an Arizona man whose 1975 alien abduction claim was dramatized in the 1993 film Fire in the Sky. The Rendlesham Forest Incident, a string of mysterious observations near England's Royal Air Force Woodbridge Station in December 1980, and the Phoenix Lights, which confused many Arizonans in March 1997. And in November 2004, several U.S. Navy pilots flying off the coast of San Diego reported seeing bizarre craft zooming through the sky, seemingly maneuvering in ways that exceeded the limits of known technology. Other Navy pilots had similar experiences off the U.S. East Coast a decade later, making a series of intriguing observations from June 2014 to March 2015. The pilots captured infrared video of some of these encounters using their onboard camera systems. 3 of these videos went viral in December 2017 when the New York Times published them as part of a blockbuster story about a previously secret military UFO investigating effort called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or AATIP for short. Politico and The Washington Post also published deep dives into AATIP, which was first funded at the request of then-Senator Harry Reid and appears to have been a driving force in the rebranding of UFOs to UAP, a term with less historical baggage. The program ran from 2007 until a funding phase-out in 2012, though AATIP personnel have said its work continued in an unofficial capacity for a few years after that. AATIP has a successor, and it was born in the sunlight, comparatively speaking. In the summer of 2020, the Pentagon announced the establishment of the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, known as UAPTF, whose mission is to detect, analyze, and catalog UAPs that could potentially pose a threat to U.S. national security. We've seen some of the task force's work already. In June 2021, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a congressionally mandated report outlining what the UAPTF, the FBI, and the Office of Naval Intelligence make of 144 recent UFO encounters documented by U.S. government censors, with a focus on sightings by Navy pilots between November 2004 and March 2021. The report, a preliminary 9-page assessment that you can read here, found that 18 of the 144 UFOs moved in odd or unexpected ways. Some of them appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings. Numerous UFO sightings are given added credibility by the testimony of eyewitnesses, most of whom are former government employees. 3 key witnesses testified at 2023 UFO hearing: Ryan Graves and David Fravor, 2 former U.S. Navy aviators who reported highly publicized encounters with unknown objects in military training airspace, and David Grush, a decorated U.S. military combat veteran and Pentagon intelligence officer. In his testimony, Grush claimed he was told of the existence of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program and was denied access to it, prompting him to file the whistleblower complaint. Grush, who served as a member of the Pentagon's short-lived UAP task force from 2019 to 2021, told the committee that his whistleblower complaint is based on information he'd been given by individuals with a long-standing track record of legitimacy and service to this country, many of whom also have shared compelling evidence in the form of photography, official documentation, and classified oral testimony to himself and many of his various colleagues. Grush's allegation is that non-human beings had been found, and the government had probably had knowledge of non-human activity since the 1930s. And now, the government even was secretly harboring alien spacecraft. Other witnesses at the hearing were David Fravor, a former Navy commander who on Wednesday recalled seeing a strange object in the sky while on a training mission in 2004, and Ryan Graves, a retired Navy pilot who has claimed that he saw unidentified aerial phenomena off the Atlantic coast every day for at least a couple years. Graves, who has since founded Americans for Safe Aerospace, a UAP nonprofit, said he was appearing to voice the concerns of more than 30 commercial air crews and military veterans who have the similar encounters. Asked if there were similarities between his sightings and others that have been reported, he said many of the UFOs reported were dark gray or black cubes inside of clear sphere, where the apex or tips of the cube were touching the inside of the sphere. When UFOs encounters report is increasing, a question comes to our mind. How could we communicate with aliens if we ever find them? While scientists are still hesitant, the U.S. government whistleblower Edward Snowden says he has the answer. In a podcast interview with astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, Snowden suggested that alien communications might be encrypted so well that humans trying to eavesdrop on extraterrestrials would have no idea they were hearing anything but noise. There's only a small window in the development of communication in which unencrypted messages are the norm, Snowden said.
So if you have an alien civilization trying to listen for other civilizations, or our civilization trying to listen for aliens, there's only one small period in the development of their society where all of their communications will be sent via the most primitive and most unprotected means.
But those holding out hope for contact from extraterrestrials can breathe easy. Humanity's current search for alien intelligence doesn't rely on an intelligible message, say scientists with the SETI Institute, which is dedicated to the search for life in the universe. The real hunt, they say, is for the medium. As Seth Shostak, director of the SETI Institute's Center for SETI Research, said, "We're not looking for the message. We're looking for the signal that tells us that somebody has a transmitter." Scientists have good reason to think billions of inhabited worlds are sprinkled throughout our galaxy in a universe teeming with life, perhaps even technologically advanced life. But where are they? Scientists can debate the question until they're blue in the face, and they have. But the only way to find out the definitive answer is to observe and explore. And here's the good news. Never before have scientists had so many tools at their disposal. Excitement is palpable that in 10 to 20 years, astrobiology could make the critical leap from theory to direct observation, no longer suffering the ignominy of being a science whose subject matter is not proven to exist. Although there's no official competition or roadmap, scientists across multiple disciplines are pursuing 3 general pathways for detecting extraterrestrial life. First, they're hunting for life in the solar system, using robotic or sample return missions. Second, they're searching for compelling evidence of life-bearing worlds by probing exoplanet atmospheres. Third, they're chasing the ultimate jackpot: evidence of intelligent life through purposefully seeking out alien signals or receiving them by serendipity. A major challenge in any search for life is defining exactly what we're looking for. Terrestrial life assumes such a dizzying variety of forms, from acid-loving bacteria to kangaroos, that attempts to define it inevitably leave out entire classes of critters. Plus, what's out there in the greater universe might be even more extreme than anything we can imagine from our limited geocentric perspective. In their recent book, Imagined Life, planetary scientist Michael Summers and physicist James Trefil identify 3 kinds of life: life like us, life not like us, and life really not like us. The first centers around all terrestrial biota, life based on organic, carbon-based chemistry, using liquid water as a solvent. The second involves chemistry based on elements other than carbon, such as silicon. The third is the wild card: life forms so far outside our conceptual horizon that we might not even recognize them as being alive. Scientists are familiar with the first type of life, so they have some idea of what they're looking for. Better yet, solar system exploration over the past 5 decades has greatly increased the inventory of relatively nearby candidate worlds that might harbor some form of familiar biology. Mars may be the best candidate for finding traces of life in our solar system. While there are no guarantees, the good news is that a massively ambitious mission designed to search for life on the red planet is well underway. Mars is, of course, the focal point of NASA's current search for signs of extraterrestrial life within our solar system. The main reason for this is the fact that we know the red planet had flowing water rivers and habitable conditions billions of years ago. In a bid to find signs of life on Mars, the U.S. Space Agency's Perseverance rover has collected several samples of Martian soil that will eventually be picked up by automated spacecraft designed for the Mars Sample Return mission and brought back to Earth at some point in the 2030s. The Perseverance rover landed on Mars in February 2021. Since then, it has been exploring the Jezero crater, an ancient lakebed where NASA believes it could find fossilized traces of alien life. Once back on Earth, scientists will analyze the Mars samples in the hope of finding traces of ancient microbial life. On the other hand, the global scientific community's interest in Venus has been rekindled in recent years, and several missions to our planetary neighbor have been proposed by NASA and other organizations. Though the focus today is heavily on Mars exploration, the first successful interplanetary probe mission, NASA's Mariner 2, was actually sent to Venus. Today, several Venus missions, including NASA's Veritas and Da Vinci Plus and Rocket Lab's private Venus mission, are undergoing early preparations. One of the main reasons for this renewed interest is the possibility that Venus could harbor alien life in its upper atmosphere. Scientists believe that, despite the inhospitable conditions on the planet's surface, the clouds of Venus have air pressure similar to those on Earth, and conditions where life might have evolved. Io has a similarly fiery surface to Venus, given the fact that it is the most geologically active world in the solar system, with more than 400 active volcanoes spread throughout its surface. This activity is thought to be caused by the gravitational force of Jupiter and Jupiter's other moons pulling at Io's surface. Due to the high volcanic activity, the surface of Io is coated in sulfur, meaning life is unlikely. Still, scientists have pointed out that the heat could have led to the evolution of some incredibly resilient form of life that was able to flourish on parts of the moon with less volcanic activity. NASA has proposed a mission called the Io Volcano Observer, IVO, which would send a probe to the moon near the end of the decade. If that mission goes ahead, there is a very small chance it could discover extraterrestrial life. In addition, Callisto is one of many moons in the solar system thought to feature a vast subsurface ocean that could have allowed for the evolution of alien life. Aside from the ocean, believed to be located around 155 miles underground, Callisto also has a thin atmosphere of hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. That combination is more Earth-like than most other moons on this list, which is a good sign. One issue with the viability of Callisto to harbor life, though, is the fact that the moon's surface is extremely cold. Still, the European Space Agency's Jupiter Icy Moon Explorer, or JUICE mission, is on its way to Jupiter, and it will explore Callisto as well as Ganymede and Europa. Besides, Saturn's sixth largest moon, Enceladus, is thought to have a saltwater ocean under its thick, marble-like icy outer layer, making it an important candidate in the search for alien life. What's more, NASA recently discovered evidence of hydrothermal activity deep beneath the moon's surface. Hydrothermal vents in Earth's oceans are thought to have played a key role in the evolution of life on our planet. As such, the discovery of a saltwater ocean and hydrothermal activity makes Enceladus an exciting proposition in the search for life in our solar system. Elsewhere, Saturn's largest moon, Titan, also has some striking similarities to Earth. It has one of the heaviest atmospheres in the solar system outside Earth and Venus. Not only that, Its surface features flowing rivers, lakes, and seas. The key difference, though, is that these are made of running methane rather than water. However, the Moon is also rich in organic materials required for life to flourish. We will know more about conditions on Titan once NASA's rotorcraft mission, called Dragonfly, reaches the Moon in the 2030s. That mission will use the lessons learned from NASA's Mars Ingenuity helicopter, the first human-built machine to perform a controlled flight off Earth, to explore the surface of Titan and shed new light on the distant Moon. The last candidate is Europa. In October, the U.S. Space Agency aims to launch its Europa Clipper spacecraft aboard a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket. The mission will investigate Jupiter's moon Europa, which is arguably the strongest candidate for hosting life in our solar system. Scientists believe Europa is home to an internal ocean with twice the amount of water than that contained in all of Earth's oceans. It may also have conditions that make it suitable for supporting life. The Europa Clipper spacecraft will investigate the Jovian moon using spectrometers and will also observe emerging plumes blasting water into space from the moon's surface. If there is life in Europa, it almost certainly was completely independent from the origin of life on Earth. That would mean the origin of life must be pretty easy throughout the galaxy and beyond, explained project scientist Robert Pappalardo on NASA's official Europa Clipper page. Another piece of good news: thanks to revolutionary advances in the discovery and characterization of exoplanets over the past 20 years, it is now conceivable that scientists could find the first strong evidence for extraterrestrial life on a planet outside the solar system. As of now, astronomers had discovered over 5,500 planets outside our solar system. And thanks to space telescopes such as James Webb, Hubble, and Kepler, as well as numerous ground-based instruments, we have surprisingly detailed information about the size, mass, density, and even atmospheric composition of many of these worlds. For now, the best information on exoplanet atmospheres comes from transit spectroscopy. In short, when a planet crosses, or transits, the face of its host star, as seen from Earth's line of sight, starlight passes through the planet's upper atmosphere and interacts with the chemicals there. By comparing spectra taken during a transit to observations of the star alone when the planet is not transiting, astronomers can extract information about the planet's atmospheric chemistry. Make no mistake, these are exceedingly difficult and time-consuming observations. But several teams have used this technique to reveal atmospheric constituents on a few dozen exoplanets, finding chemicals such as water, carbon monoxide, iron, magnesium, sodium, potassium, and even the rare elements scandium and yttrium. One particularly interesting planet is K2-18b, a super-Earth located around 120 light-years from Earth. This planet is between 2 and 3 times the width of Earth, with 8.6 times the mass of our planet. It's also located in the habitable zone of its star, the region neither too hot nor too cold to support liquid water. The exoplanet is thus theorized to be an ocean, or Hycean world, replete with liquid water, a vital ingredient for life as we know it. What's notable, this planet gets almost the same amount of solar radiation as Earth, and if atmosphere is removed as a factor, K2-18b has a temperature close to Earth's, which is also an ideal situation in which to find life. Using Hubble, 2 research teams have found significant amounts of water vapor in its hydrogen and helium-rich atmosphere. The water probably condenses into clouds that might produce rain. It remains unknown whether K2-18b has a rocky or watery surface that would be conducive to life. In the words of Björn Benneke of the Université de Montréal in Canada, leader of one of the 2 teams that detected water vapor, it is really the first time that we have probed the conditions on a habitable zone planet. And now, the excitement around the potential detection of life signs on this exoplanet is arising when the James Webb Space Telescope detected potential biosignature elements in its atmosphere. observations made by James Webb revealed possible traces of a biologically produced gas called dimethylsulfide in the planet's atmosphere. On Earth, this chemical is known to originate only from microscopic marine creatures such as phytoplankton, giving researchers hope that perhaps the oceans of K2 to 18b are swimming with life as well. But the detection came with caveats mostly based on the faintness of the chemical signals when seen at such extreme distances from Earth. As study lead author Shang-Min Tsai, a project scientist at the University of California, Riverside said in a statement, "The dimethyl sulfide signal from the Webb telescope was not very strong and only showed up in certain ways when analyzing the data. We wanted to know if we could be sure." The new research, published May in the Astrophysical Journal Letters, further pumps the brakes on this tantalizing discovery. Motivated by the fact that organically produced dimethyl sulfide disappears rapidly in Earth's atmosphere before it can accumulate in large quantities, the researchers used computer simulations to model whether dimethyl sulfide could ever reach detectable levels in a hydrogen-rich exoplanet's atmosphere. The team determined that dimethyl sulfide can reach detectable levels as long as the hypothetical critters in K2-18b's oceans pump out 20 times more dimethyl sulfide than plankton do on Earth. That in itself isn't a deal-breaker for the potentially habitable water world. Everything else we know about it makes the planet an ideal situation in which to find life. However, the team's research also found that it is highly unlikely that James Webb would be capable of separating a dimethyl sulfide signal from other, more common atmospheric gases at the specific wavelengths it examined with NIR spec. Simply put, there could well be biological compounds in K2-18b's atmosphere and prolific life in its oceans, but James Webb probably hasn't detected it. The good news is that the telescope has another instrument on board, the MIRI, that is capable of detecting a broader range of wavelengths and may be much better suited for parsing dimethyl sulfide from methane, the study authors wrote. Follow-up observations of K2-18b using MIRI are already scheduled for this year, with science results expected before year's end. If there is life on K2-18b, farting or otherwise, we may soon have a much better idea. In addition, note that we are living in the golden age of astronomy. The 2020 Astronomy and Astrophysics Decadal Survey placed the development of a new suite of complementary space observatories at the top of the U.S.'s agenda for space-based astrophysics. In response to this recommendation, NASA began a dedicated technological development project for the new Great Observatories program. NASA's original great observatories were the Hubble Space Telescope, the Compton Gamma Ray Observatory, the Chandra X-ray Observatory, and the Spitzer Space Telescope. Working both individually and collaboratively, these missions rewrote the textbooks and revolutionized our understanding of the cosmos. But these spacecraft are aging. Only Hubble and Chandra are still functioning. The new Great Observatories program comprises 3 missions. The Habitable Worlds Observatory, which will work at ultraviolet, optical, and infrared wavelengths, an X-ray observatory, LINX, and the far infrared mission called Origins complete the trio. In Europe, other big missions, such as the X-ray mission New Athena and the infrared mission Life, are being studied too. Together, if funded to completion, the European and American missions will provide complementary science. For years, when searching for non-intelligent species, we've so far been restricted to our solar system, and the spacecraft designed to scour the Martian landscape or observe the moons of Jupiter and Saturn for signs of habitability or life. But the Habitable Worlds Observatory would totally change that by opening up the search to planets beyond our solar system and by being sensitive to life at any stage of its evolution. The trick to doing this is the fact that all living things breathe. This means taking in one gas and expelling another. On Earth, that process forces our atmosphere out of chemical equilibrium by placing more oxygen and methane in our atmosphere than would otherwise occur. If life vanished from Earth tomorrow, the oxygen and methane the atmosphere contains would gradually be removed by chemical and geological processes. So, to find a planet with an atmosphere that can't be explained solely by chemistry could be a sign that there are breathing life forms constantly replenishing the atmosphere with molecules that don't otherwise coexist in nature. And the way to do that is to isolate the light from the target planet. Light carries so much more information than just the brightness of a celestial object. Splitting light into its constituent wavelengths produces a rainbow-like spectrum that's intersected with a series of dark lines. These lines are produced by the different atoms and molecules that the light has passed through. Each chemical absorbs a different pattern of wavelengths, and so produces a different pattern of dark lines. It's the equivalent of a fingerprint, and allows astronomers to determine the chemical composition of a celestial object, no matter how far away that object happens to be. But collecting enough light from a planet is fiendishly difficult because the planet only reflects starlight, and its parent star is 1 billion times brighter. The analogy that often gets used is that it's like trying to detect a firefly next to an industrial searchlight. The firefly and the searchlight are about 5 meters away from each other, but are located in Los Angeles while you're standing in New York City. That's the analogy, although it's actually much worse than that if you go through numbers. What this means, in practice, is that some means of suppressing the star's light will be needed by the telescope in order for the planet to be seen. And in the Habitable Worlds Observatory, a device called a coronagraph will be used to physically block the light from the central star. That's why scientists call it game changer. That's all the information that we have for you today. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you never miss out on future episodes. And be sure to also tell us what you think about today's content. Everyone's support motivates us to continue delivering quality content and to always improve. As always, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.